So here's the basic story. We're going to talk about it's homecoming in what, next week, yes? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to change the conditions of homecoming slightly. The way this is going to work is we're going to have people come in as individuals. Okay, no dates to start. All right? And there's no actual couples that have actually existed. It's all just going to be individuals. So at the beginning of the dance, we're going to have some males and some females. And so let's pick some numbers. Let's say, what, 200? Okay, so let's say we're going to have about 200 females. All right, they'll be represented by a circle. And we're going to have about 300 males. All right, they'll be represented by an X. There are no couples right now, so we'll represent those by stars, and there are 0 couples so far. All right, for a little while, nothing's going to happen. Now, what then would happen if we say, put on some music? People will want to dance. Now let's pretend. Let's go old-fashioned. Let's go way back in the day, back in my day, all right, when people actually just danced with one other person, and for the purposes of this, obviously this is not, contemporary, but for the purposes of this, we're going to presume heterosexuality and monogamy, all right? So we're going to have heterosexual couples who are monogamous, so they're only going to dance with that one person at any one given time. Fair enough? Okay, so what's going to start to happen to the number of couples? It's going to start to increase. What's going to happen to the number of single males and single females? It's going to start to decrease. Now, is it reasonable to say that the number of single males and females will eventually level off? Will there be a point where not everyone is dancing? All right? So we've got couples here. It's going to start to reach a level point. And we've got single males and single females. All right? So let's say we're down to about 220 single males. So we'd have about what? 120 single females, right? And we'd have how many couples? Everybody.
40.
80.
Careful. Which is it? Is it 40 or 80?
80. 80.
It's 80.
Okay. Now let's think about that. We've lost 80 males and 80 females. Therefore, we have 80 couples, not 40. All right, moving on. All right, so now notice that continues for a while. But is it possible that, for instance, this particular, some of these particular males in this couple separate, and for the females, the couple separate, and that different males and females get together? So we've reached an equilibrium. In this graph, how can you tell there's equilibrium? Everything is leveled off. There's no change of any of the 3 reactants or products, right? Okay, so this goes along for a while. We've reached a nice, happy equilibrium. And then we change. Because what happens is the football team, for whatever reason, decides to show up late. So suddenly we add, what? How many are on your team?
40.
Okay, so let's double it. So let's go 60 new males suddenly show up. All right? And of course, they're all, buff, beautiful males. So all of a sudden, just go with it. All right? So all of a sudden, we spike this, and we run this back up to what? If we had 60 new males, we go back up to, say, 280, right? All right? Now, if you suddenly add all these attractive, young, physically fit young men, what happens to the number of couples that are going to form? It's going to increase, right? And so some of these males that we added will react. What's going to happen to the number of free females?
It's going to decrease.
It's going to decrease, right? Okay, and then what's going to happen is we're going to reach a new equilibrium. It can go back to equilibrium, but just a different one. Does that make sense? Okay, and so it's going to shift to a new equilibrium. All right? Now, what could we do to mess with this equilibrium otherwise? Well, what if we put on some really crappy music? What happens to the number of people who are dancing? Nobody's going to want to dance, right? So all of a sudden, we could lower the dancing and increase the individuals again just by changing the energy, if you will, of the system. Right? All of a sudden they'll be separating out. The males and females will go back to being free males and free females, and the number of couples will decrease. Does that make sense? All right.